we are going to talk about the ayahuasca diet. It's notoriously difficult, and more than just the diet, the spirit of the diet, the foods you can eat, can't eat, but how to prepare from a more holistic perspective, looking at your energy, your body, your field, and the philosophy of the diet as well is when it's time for us to do something challenging, it's a lot easier to do it when we understand the why behind it. I'm joined by Jamie, who's one of our facilitators, an amazing chef as well, and Mo. So before we get into things, maybe lads, do you want to introduce yourself?
Want me to go first, Jamie? Okay, cool. So I'm Mo. I am part of the team at Numinity. I'm a depth psychology coach, working with a lot of Jungian psychology, and my interests are in Jungian psychology and how those concepts work really well with integration. And so as part of our retreat container, I deliver a lot of the training with Melissa. We talk about topics such as the shadow, the emotion, story, myth, masculine, feminine energies, all of those topics that really help us prepare for what might come up in ceremony. And then on the other side of the ceremony, in terms of how to integrate. So on the call. If there are any questions, any comments, put them in the chat, and then I'll bring them to Melissa and Jamie.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jamie, and as Melissa said, I'm a keen cook. I am a Kambo practitioner, and I am, and that's about where I am for you guys. And I've been where you are as well, and I've faced this next step and all the trials and tribulations of this journey you're about to go on, and I'm excited for you. So yeah, if I can help any questions in any way, just reach out. I'm here.
Thank you, Mo and Jamie. I'm Melissa. I'm the founder of Numinity. We are an organisation that do a lot of work with nature, with plants, with plant medicine, including ayahuasca. Ayahuasca has been a huge part of my journey. I was someone that had done a lot of more conventional healing work in a psychotherapeutic setting, and it wasn't really until I started working with ayahuasca that I was able to see how many of these ideas, concepts that I understood or was aware of started to become embodied and integrated and lived. And now the three of us and the rest of the team are running retreats out in Portugal, really focused on not only the ceremonies themselves, but how we prepare and how we integrate those experiences in a way that creates enduring, lasting change. So let's get into it. Just to set the scene, I think when people hear the word dieta, diet, they often think about, can I eat this? Can I not eat that? What are the rules? What are the restrictions? And there's something really interesting in human psychology. You've probably heard that 99% or 90% or 99% of diets fail, that the vast majority of people who will follow a diet will eventually regain any weight that's lost. And we don't like being told what we can't do. And there's a lot of psychological resistance to restriction. It can feel almost like we're in this brace position, fighting with ourselves not to eat certain foods or listen to certain music or whatever the thing is. And so part of the purpose of this session is to help reframe that relationship with preparation and the dieta, because when we can get into a state of understanding of this reciprocal relationship that we're building with the medicine, the preparation, the diet moves away from being something that's just about the list of what I can and can't have, and more about this act of sacrifice and devotion, and a way of giving to ayahuasca before the retreat itself, so that you are already starting to build that relationship. And this idea of reciprocity is something that is lost in the Western world. We live in a very hierarchical, patriarchal society of dominion, where we take, but we don't often think about the fact that there's an exchange going on, and so that can spill into retreat models to this idea that it's like, well, I'm paying here and I'm here to do my ceremony, so ayahuasca, what have you got to give me? But the invitation when preparing for working with the medicine is to say, what can I give to you, so that I show my dedication, my devotion, and my readiness to receive all the many lessons that you may have for me on the other side of this. So yeah, before we get into the specifics of the diet, I wanted to talk a bit about this concept of set and setting that comes up a lot with psychedelics. It's this concept that the environment is really important in terms of the journey that you go on. If you take mushrooms at a rave, it's a great experience, but a very different experience to what it's like to take them in a ceremonial setting, despite scientifically, qualitatively, the thing that you're ingesting being the same. And that principle is often thought of as relating to environment, but it also applies to our internal environment. So the question is, how do we create the right internal set to receive the medicine? And a big part of that is about reducing the physical, organic, biological barriers that come between us and the medicine, as well as stimulation, noise, mental chatter, really quietening ourselves down. So the run up to ceremonies can be a period of introspection, of drawing away from the outer world and connecting more with your inner world through meditation, spending time in nature, reducing stimulus, maybe not spending as much time with triggering family members, which can sometimes be a welcome change, and honoring this period as just everything else can wait. I mean, sometimes it can wait much longer than we think it can, and knowing that what you put into these processes, this preparation process, will reflect in what you get out of the experience too. Jamie, let's talk about the food. The food is definitely the thing that people find, sex people find hard as well. Abstaining, excellent. Store your sexual energy, it's very helpful in ceremony. But apart from that, the food is the thing that people have the biggest gripes with. You find it really challenging. It can bring up a lot to restrict. Could you start maybe just like talking broadly about what the dieta is? Yeah, what you need to do from a food perspective when preparing to work with ayahuasca.
Yeah, sure. So the main goal is to cut tyramine from your diet, and tyramine is a natural substance, and it occurs in lots of different foods and different food groups. And frustratingly, is usually the most delicious things that we all like to eat are the things that are very rich in tyramine. So first of all, you're cutting out things like salt and sugar, onions and garlic. I mean, those four already, they're going to be challenging. Then we've got things like dried fruit as well, I think certain nuts as well, nitrates as well, like tomatoes and aubergines, things like this. There's many different food groups that you'd need to start to kind of wean out of your diet. And I think the most challenging thing I found was definitely to just go cold turkey on all of these things. I think a sensible way to do it is to gradually take these things out, or like what I would do is I'd make a bland bowl of food and then just sprinkle a bit of salt on, and then reduce the salt daily until you end up with a very bland meal. But once you remove, it's an interesting thing, because we obviously, like, every time we go to eat, like when you want to go out for dinner, or if you're going to, cook something to eat, you always want to make the thing that's delicious. You want to enjoy your food and you want to eat something that's going to taste nice. But when you stop eating food for the flavor and for that nice taste that you're getting, you start to appreciate your food in a bit of a different way. It's almost as if you can feel food nourish you, and you can feel what food gives you. And it's like, oh, hang on a minute, like, because I think we forget as humans that when you're eating such nice, delicious, tasty things, you forget the reason we're doing it is for survival. And it's almost like you feel your body surviving as you start to appreciate food in this different way. And I find that, well, I found when I first did the Dieta, that really is the start of the work, and it's the start of the journey. It's like when you're taking this comforting thing away from you that you've grown to love and appreciate, and you have to replace it with something else. And yeah, as I say, you just start to appreciate food in a completely different way. But it's the first start of making a change, which is effectively what you're doing with ayahuasca.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I was reminded of like how much emotional comfort we people derive from food, and so it can be a really confronting, exposing, but also healing experience to, as you say, take it back to the basics of food being the source of nourishment. Because from that without that emotional buffer, stuff bubbles up to the surface, and I mean a lot is bubbling in the run up to a ceremony anyway. So when that's taken away, it's much more, you're much more present of what's going on at the deepest psychic level, and all the other recommendations like no drinking, not overworking, not rushing around, scrolling. It all serves the same effect, really, of like bringing yourself into that state of sensitivity, of receptivity, and presence with what's alive in your internal state. I remember when you and I did the Dieta Come Dine with me, and we took it in turns to cook on 2 consecutive nights, to cook Dieta food for one another. And up until that point, I had just thought that by definition, the food had to be terrible. And I'd made you this like dire chickpea penne pasta with, I can't even remember with what, but it was not good at all.
Yeah,
And
I remember it.
you traumatized, PTSD from that penne.
Yeah. So it still keeps me up at night. Yeah.
And you'd made this like amazing curry and this salad with this like persimmon dressing, and I was just like, is this legit? Is this legit? And it is, but there are delicious things that you can make using the food, but it also it requires a level of creativity from you. And I think that's interesting. I mean, Mo, you can attest to this. That's such a big part of the experience of working with ayahuasca, is accessing that right hemisphere of the brain, and how much it stimulates our creative expression in a way before you've even drunk the medicine. That's the invitation is there to start to get into that way of relating to food and flavor with a more sensitive palate, and working with less in a careful way, rather than this sense of like, oh, lack and deprivation. Could you share a bit about, how you, in your previous diets, how you've approached that, your relationship with food? And I think particularly finding that balance between honoring the spirit of the diet and keeping things simple, but also not becoming a martyr and making it unnecessarily insufferable for yourself.
Sorry, was that for me or was that for Mo?
Oh, that's for you, Jamie.
That was for me. So basically, you just want to know some nice recipes, right?
Some tips, some tips for making it still dieta friendly, but not.
Yeah, of course. Well, like nature gives you so much, and you got to think that and you also, it's not even a case of trying to make things tasty. You need to bear in mind that you're really limiting the food that you're giving yourself, but you still need to have a balanced diet. You need to have plenty of vitamins, you need to have plenty of protein, and so you need to keep all these things in mind. But I'd always work with colors. Colors for me are something that always kind of work with food. I'd always try and make a plate as colorful as possible. And you can do things like, if you're not using salt, you could make like herb paste, for example. Like, you're allowed to use small amounts of olive oil and coconut oil and this kind of thing. So I'd use a lot of herbs, and I'd have almost have like a bit of a herb kind of garden kind of paste amongst the plate. And making curries is also like a really, really good thing to do, like coconut chickpea curries, and you can use some really mild spices. Cook it really low and really slow, and then that really gets the most out of the flavors that you're using. And I found as well, eating, rather than trying to eat, because I'm a big eater as well. I love food, and I'm always, whenever I eat dinner, I'll always make big plates. But I always found as well that eating small amounts throughout the day was also a good way to manage it, because you're not getting the same amount of fats you normally would. You're not getting the same amounts of proteins that you normally would. So it's a good idea to kind of like spread it out throughout the day rather than trying to eat too much at once. And I guess I walk around the supermarket. I've always got the list on my phone of what you can and can't eat, because it's always good to have the reference. And I think when you said, Melissa, about that persimmon salad dressing, I was like, I remember just seeing the fruit in the supermarket and being like, and then seeing the salad, and obviously the fruits and the salads are all in the same place, and it's like, I'm just looking around trying to think like what can go with what. And I was like, okay, a nice green salad with a nice orange dressing. And I was thinking, I was looking at different fruits, and then it's like, it was just a simple case of like shredding the persimmon up. I think I put some oat milk or something in there as well, just stirred it all around in a bowl to make a nice dressing, and then that was the salad. And and then you can do so much with that as well. I started to change it for like things like apricots, or even you could use apples, and so many things like this. Oh, and another good one as well is there's a really nice banana ice cream you can make, where you take overripe bananas, chop them up, freeze them, and then you can put them in a blender. And oh no, but you're not allowed bananas, are you? Forgot about that.
Not too ripe.
Not too ripe.
A green unripe banana would be all
Oh,
right.
okay, forget that one then. No, you can't do that.
That sounded way too delicious to be on the diet.
Yeah, sorry, that's far too delicious. And there's as I say, like, I love going to the supermarket and I love walking around the supermarkets. And when you know what you can and can't eat, it's a case of like getting into the right sections, looking at the colors, seeing what you think goes with what. And as you can't make food always taste great, as if it looks good, then I kind of think that's half the battle as well. Because when you think of, when a plate of food looks delicious, your brain's already telling you that it's delicious. And that's kind of where I am with the dieta, how I create my dishes.
Could you go through like some staple purchases that are like always in your cupboard, always in your fridge,
Sure.
when you're doing the dieta?
So Right, so I get rye bread, rye flour, sorry, or spelt flour. Spelt flour is a good one because you're not allowed to have gluten. So good gluten-free flour. You can make some really simple flatbreads with it. So just water and spelt flour, and you can make that into a nice dough. And then I roll them out really nice and thin, and then just fry them in a small amount of olive oil. And you can batch make these, so you can you can fry up like 10 or 15 of them, put them in a little tub and put them in the fridge, and then you can heat those up. Like you can pop them in the oven or you can just have them cold, but they're really delicious. Then like not I always think as well like a nice fresh crunchy salad, like slice some cabbages, some red cabbage or some white cabbage, and then you can slice some peppers as well, like kind of going almost paleo, you can get some not like always get some nice crunchy vegetables, and then yeah, make up nice salads with that. And as I say, you can use different fruits to make dressings. Obviously you need to stay away from citrus fruits, but yeah, so making like nice crunchy salads again, I'd always have Tupperware boxes and I batch make these things. So when I get home, I've always got something there that I can sort of reach into. Um, Mushrooms are a great one, like you're allowed to eat as many mushrooms as you want. So you can, and what I like to do is I like to slice mushrooms up really thin and just cook them in water, just a tiny bit of water in the pan, and you can just cook them in there. And mushrooms, the great thing about mushrooms as well is they give off a lot of moisture, but you can keep adding moisture back into the pan. So like you can reduce the mushrooms down, add a bit more water, and then that water, the more you cook it, that becomes like a really nice kind of like gravy or stock that you can use too. So, or it can even become a dressing, like a salad dressing or something. So again, make loads of mushrooms up, nice tub in the fridge, and then if you want to heat them up, you can. Or like by this point, you've got a nice crunchy salad with some mushrooms, and then you can just get like a tin of chickpeas, like a tin of cooked chickpeas, drain off the aquafaba because the aquafaba is bad for the dietas, but the chickpeas are good. But I think actually chickpeas, they don't want to be cooked for too long. So if you like, probably the better thing would be to cook your own, but you can use some cheat codes. But anyway, you get your flatbread, your crunchy vegetables, your cooked mushrooms, and some chickpeas, and then you've got a pretty good little taco there. So yeah, these are the kind of areas that you want to think around. You want to have like you want to have your replacements as well. So have your bread replacement, have your salad, have your protein replacement, and then um yeah, that's kind of like the way that I go with it. So that in itself is a nice little taco meal that you can do on the regs. And then, as I said before, like a chickpea curry. I think I made it for you as well, Melissa. Would be like a really basic. Tesco's did these. They do little garam masalas, and they've got real light mild spices and things like. There's a little bit of cinnamon in there. There's some cumin, turmeric, but it's the Tesco. It's a yellow Tesco's garam masala, and it's dieta friendly. So I used that with peppers, just mixed bell peppers, mushrooms, and chickpeas, and then I made that with like a coconut. With tinned coconut sauce, and yeah, just pop that in the like make one of those. Again, batch cook it. I'll make a big batch. Can put it in the fridge. You can put it in the freezer. And brown rice. Brown rice is a really good one. Stay away from white rice, basmati, jasmine, all that kind of thing, and just stick to brown rice. And sadly, like I did try and make some fried rice ones, but it's making fried rice can just be a bit tricky when you're not using loads of oil and loads of delicious things. So it's that sadly with rice, you do just kind of need to keep it bland. But at the same time, though, it's really good to just start with those bland foods like that because, as I say, once your brain gets out of this doesn't taste nice and it starts getting into this feels amazing, that's when the dieta really starts to become quite a beautiful thing. And yeah, so that's where I am. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right. And thank you so much. Those are amazing tips and recipes. And it is the first few really strict days that are the hardest. Those are the days when your like body's almost like going through withdrawal from the sugar and really feeling those urges to reach out for those more satiating, comforting foods. But there is a point where you sort of turn the corner and start to feel like, oh, actually, I'm really feeling the benefits of this, and now that's starting to feel quite motivating in and of itself. My experience is that there's also a time, a few days before the retreat, where you're a bit psychologically weary. Your ego's also throwing up a bunch of other reservations about this big journey that you're going to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing the absolute classic 48-hour before thing that the mind tends to do before psychedelic journeys, where suddenly the diet just feels impossible again. And so, like you said, having those staples that you have in the fridge that you can just rely on are in a way like your safety net for the moments that can be more testing. I think one of the hardest things is also navigating like social situations, because if you live at home alone and you're just following this diet and you're not leaving the house for a month, it's relatively straightforward. If you are constantly sitting opposite someone eating a steak or a burger while you're having your sweet potato, that after a period of time can start to weigh quite heavy. Do you have any advice for navigating the dieta in social settings?
Yeah, I mean, my experience is slightly different to what you just described, though, because I found that, like, you can't sugarcoat it. Like, the dieta is a challenge at first, and I mean, I'm only talking from my personal experience. I know that everyone goes through different things, but I remember doing it for 4 weeks. And I mean, I've done it several times, but the first time I did it, I went full. I really threw myself into it, and I really dedicated my time, and I really took myself out of my comfort zone. And yeah, the first 2 weeks was definitely the toughest. It was really, really tough. And I was saying to Melissa and Mo recently as well, my work environment can be a challenging one just because of the people that I work with and the environment that we're in. And it's like, and I tell people this is what I'm eating. And yeah, and I actually had a bunch of guys all sort of like, your food's shit, my food's amazing, and they're all eating like chicken and pizzas and stuff, and I'm having this, bland rice, and I'm still trying to figure out like how to cook it and this sort of thing. So that was challenging. Then the note of there's the other things as well, like reducing the types of music you listen to. And I'm a big music lover as well, so I love rock, I love house music, I love techno and stuff like that. And I've always been into classical and things, so I was like, okay, cool, I can start listening to more classical music, more ambient music. But then it gets to a point where it's like, oh my god, so I'm not eating anything nice, I'm not listening to anything I want, I can't have sex, I can't masturbate, like what can I do, what am I doing here? And but then I found something just clicked one day, and it was definitely when that what happened, what I told you about, when suddenly I wasn't looking forward to food because of the taste anymore. I was looking forward to being nourished and kept alive. And I remember just eating my dinner one night and being like, oh my god, like this food is just, it's not this food, like food is just amazing, like what it is. And it's like I could feel it going down into my stomach, and I could feel it in my stomach, and like, it didn't taste of anything, I could just feel all these things, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so nice. And then the next day going into work and just being in that environment with those people, and nothing any of them was saying could get to me. And it was like I felt the environment get tense, and I was like up and out doing something else, and just like my mental shift, my mentality had shifted completely. And it was almost like I remember thinking to myself, I don't need to go for this retreat, I'm sweet, I'm good, I just got to keep doing the dieta, and I got to keep to myself, and like that's all I need, I don't need anything else. Obviously you do need to go on the retreat, you've done all this work, you're going on the retreat. But yeah, I found that eventually, if you just have faith in it, if you just have faith in the process and you have faith in the medicine, then it will fall into place. And it might be different for you guys, it might be different for someone else, but in some way, shape, or form, if you've really felt the calling for ayahuasca and you're in the place you need to be, then everything does just fall into place as it should.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. A good reminder to persevere through the challenges that can sometimes face along the way. Victoria asked a question about music. Music, you can listen to music. You're working towards creating more and more sensitivity in your inner world, and you'll start to feel that as you do the preparation process. And so at a baseline level, you want to avoid music that's very dark, heavy, maybe emotionally challenging, stuff that feels really stimulating to you is best to avoid. So like calm, chill out, ambient music, upbeat things is generally fine, but you become more and more sensitive as the process continues. And so there's also a degree of being really attuned to your internal state and noticing if at some point along the journey, oh wow, even listening to like my normal pop music or dance music that I typically listen to is something that becomes aggravating to your system. Michelle, the question about tyramine, it's the ayahuasca vine, one of the ingredients in the ayahuasca brew is the ayahuasca vine. It's a monooxidase inhibitor, and that stops the body from breaking down this enzyme tyramine. It's completely safe. It's a normal thing in our systems, but when the levels can't be broken down and the levels become too high, then we experience more nausea, dizziness, heart palpitations. In extreme circumstances with like antidepressants and stuff like that, there's complications with serotonin syndrome, and so it's to minimize the unpleasant interactions that can happen with high tyramine in the system. And with ayahuasca, the purging is a huge part of the process, whether that's emotional, physical purging, energetic, mental purging. And yet we also don't want to invite even more discomfort into the journey than is already going to potentially be there. So yeah, that's the reason to cut it out. And actually, I'm glad you asked that question, because it's really motivating to me when I'm struggling and I'm thinking, oh, I really want to eat this thing, I've got this ayahuasca retreat, that I remind myself like what goes in will be coming out. Okay, yeah, that's a good incentive not to eat whatever the thing is. Jamie, do you remember the TV program Ready Steady Cook?
Yeah, of course.
I think I'm thinking of the right program. They get a bunch of ingredients and then they have to make something.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And it was like the red tomato, the green pepper, and the red tomato, maybe.
Something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Okay, so I want to do like a live version, but dieta, and I'm just going to give you one single ingredient, and that's your primary ingredient. You can use other things that you would have, that you've mentioned that you'd have in your cupboard, but if I give you one ingredient, it's inspiration. Can you fire at me what you would make from it?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Okay, a butternut squash.
Okay, a butternut squash. I would slice it down the middle, so like kind of through the stalk down to the root, and then you end up with two halves like that. Then, trying to think of, basically what I do is I do like a stuffed or like a filling of a butternut squash. So score the inside of it, and then I'm just trying to think of exactly what I'd use. I'd maybe go with butter beans on this one, and I do like a nice creamy butternut. So like I'd get some coconut milk, not butternut, butter beans, and lashings of coriander. And what else would I do? Yeah, so I've got butter beans and I've got coconut milk, and coriander, and one more ingredient. What do I want to put in it? I think, do you know, I think that'd be quite good. So I think if we got the right spices going in the coconuts, I'd make the nice coconut curry that I mentioned. I'd score the butternut squash, and I'd roast the butternut squash in the oven. So like a bit of olive oil or coconut oil, whatever you want to do. Another good thing I did actually that I didn't mention before was because we're only allowed a small amount of olive oil, I'd put some in a little spray bottle. And then that's a really good way of distributing it. You can distribute a small amount evenly over a larger surface. So, like for roasting a butternut squash, for example, give like 2 or 3 squirts per half, pop it in the oven, roast it, then bring that out. But once that's done, like the curry will be done as well. So yeah, I'd have butternut beans with let's chuck some mushrooms in there because mushrooms are delicious. So I'd have a butter bean, mushroom, coconut curry, and then I'd basically serve half a butternut squash to a person, pour some curry on it, loads of coriander, and yeah, that's what I do.
Amazing, amazing. Sounds
Is that
delicious.
good?
Just
That
to
sound
check,
good, guys?
yeah, it sounds great. You can come round after this and cook for me. Just to test that you aren't a one-hit wonder, the next ingredient is carrots.
Carrots. Okay, so what I would do. Oh, this might sound like a one-hit wonder again, but again, I get a lot of crunchy vegetables, and what I like to do is get a vegetable peeler, you know, like a potato peeler, but then peel the carrots and just you keep peeling it so it's like flat, so you don't like peel it around the edges. You want to keep peeling it in one direction, and you end up with these really nice like flat long strips of carrot. And then I would make a really nice, fresh, crunchy salad with that. And I know, like, the rules say don't use any like citrus fruits as well, but it is just so tasty when you put just a little bit of lemon in there, a little bit of lime, or you could even use like, some like zest or something like that. But yeah, that's where I'd go with carrots on dieta. I'd make a really nice, fresh, crunchy, light salad. Or are you looking for something a bit more? Are you looking for something a bit more heavy and
No,
substantial?
that was
Because
great. That was great.
you could even put that salad with the butternut squash curry as well.
Great. A one-hit wonder would have been if you were like, I'll cut them in half and then
Roast them in the oven.
oven.
Okay, yeah. I'll make a really nice
And then I'll
butter
make a
bean
really
curry.
nice
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't have had
yeah,
that, but you can have the
yeah.
carrot
Right.
salad. Okay, round 3. This is where it gets challenging. Sweet potato.
Sweet potato. The thing is with the sweet potatoes are delicious, and I would always have a sweet potato on a plate with several other things. It's kind of always an accompaniment. But if it had to be, yeah, so I definitely would roast sweet potatoes. And the good thing about sweet potatoes as well is because they've got so much natural occurring sugars, if you cook them for long enough, they do start to caramelize on the edges, and that caramelization is like a real, like naturally super tasty thing to have. And I would yeah, I'd make not necessarily like a curry again, but I would try and make some kind of like a fragrant stew, probably like using the mushroom water. And yeah, I'd use the mushroom water and again, fresh peppers, like fresh bell peppers. And I'd cook them with, what I cook them with? Protein. We need some protein. So I'll tell you what, I'd make like a light lentil, mushroom, and pepper kind of like stew. Maybe use some paprika's okay, isn't it? Small amounts of paprika's okay, yeah. So I'd make like a paprika mushroom stew with lentils, and then have that with the charred caramelized sweet potatoes. And I think that would be a really lovely little frothy roast potato thing. Yeah, I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Jamie. Really, really helpful. Did anyone have any other questions? Is there anything you wanted to ask about the diet or about your lives? Yeah, exactly that. It's a combination of the scientifically contraindicated things like the high tyramine foods, antidepressants, alcohol, things like that, versus the spirit of the dieta and the sacrifice, the reducing stimulation. So salt is part of that. It's not that you remove all salt from your diet. We need a little bit, but rather that we are creating relatively blander food through reducing the amount of salt that we are eating. Yeah, and so part of it happens naturally as well, that as you eat this way for a period of time, you feel like you have less energy and there's less desire to do as high intensity stuff. Movement is great, but it may be that you're opting for more of the yoga type of things versus the more high intensity thing in that same spirit of reducing stimulation. Along the journey, it's really, really important to listen to your body. Each of us is unique. We have our own energy needs, but if you start to feel lightheaded, that's usually a sign that you need more electrolytes. If you're feeling weak, then maybe you need more calories, and just listening, refining, and actually your ability to listen in this space of less stimulation is, as long as you're not dogmatically following the rules, disconnected from yourself, it is more refined than it usually is in your day-to-day life when you're more stimulated, rushing around, and so it can be a really nice place to be more present with what you feel drawn to doing and what you feel less drawn to doing as well.
I just wanted to add to that as well, that I found that it was really good to get away from the gyms and away from the yoga classes and away from those environments, and to exercise in nature more. Like if you can find somewhere to go for a wild swim, if you can find a nice place to go for gentle jogs, and I'd go to the woods and try and find trees to do like calisthenics and stuff like that, and just make it a bit, and just really try and incorporate breath more than you normally would as well, like lots of breathing in nature, being in nature, and yeah, exercising barefoot, this kind of thing as well is always really helpful.
This question reminds me as well that like this concept of balance is really important to this process too. I think we've worked with a lot of people who are very like type A personalities of like, I've got to follow this 100% all of the time, do it absolutely perfectly, and in many ways, if you find yourself relating to it in that way, that's part of the medicine, is like showing you this is the way that you relate to things, and we can really learn about ourselves through how we relate to our own perceived success or failure, adherence, non-compliance with the dieta, and really the encouragement is to bring compassion to however you're doing it. It's enough, it's happening the way it's meant to be. If you're struggling, what can you learn from that, and seeing that as all part of the journey as well. If it's like a couple of days here and there that I'm on the go, then I just take the hit on eating like just really not food that I would otherwise want. Well, food that I might, get like a bag of trail mix and get some apples and get some rice cakes and things like that. Like not it's not ideal, but it is hard to source food on the go, eating out, that is dieta friendly. If it's like longer travel periods in the run up to the retreat, then opting for Airbnbs rather than staying at hotels, so you are able to prepare food for yourself, is definitely something that helps a lot. The thing is that sometimes it's unavoidable, but and there really is no option. Like you're in the middle of nowhere and you're staying in someone's house, and in these situations, like just roll with, okay, this is the situation, is what it is. You don't need to get it right 100% of the time. If you can get it right 80% of the time, that's more than sufficient to be well prepared for the ceremonies. And ideally the like last few days would be the ones when you're your stricters, but sometimes because they're the travel days that it doesn't work out like that either. White fish is fine. Generally, you avoid fattier food, so things like salmon or salmon skins, like things, fish skins like that you'd avoid. But yeah, white fish people eat.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, really, because we learn so much about ourselves and how we relate to ourselves in the moment that we slip, and we all slip all the time, and that's really revealing psychic material. And we're even more likely to slip when we're handed a huge list of things not to eat and not to do. So it's inevitable that it will happen. And yeah, to look at what your psyche does, to journal about what your psyche does, to think about other areas of your life in which your psyche might be doing the same things, and to take that all as part of the learnings and part of the process. Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining. We have our October retreat, the 1st to the 6th. We still have one space available. I'm not sure if talking for an hour about how challenging the preparation process is the best marketing, but it's an honest reflection of what the journey will be starting on the 8th of September anyway. So if you're interested, do reach out.